Welcome, everybody. This is Dr. Duncan, and I wanted to introduce you to the first module as to what is a dissertation. Just several slides to talk about the dissertation process, the journey, and some of the key information that you need as you continue forward over the next year, 2 years, or whatever, how long it takes for a dissertation. Hopefully not too long, but these slides are very informative based on readings from key text as well as research. The purpose of this particular presentation is to outline the dissertation process and to discuss basic and applied research, as well as identify best practices and strategies. I always consider the dissertation more of a journey. When I pursued my dissertation several years ago, actually almost a decade ago, it took a while, a lot of fits and starts. I had other obligations, family obligations, as well as professional obligations near the tail end of my doctoral study or my dissertation. I was actually traveling across the country, excuse me, as part of my job duties. So it was difficult, but that's why, for the candidates that I have worked with, and for those who I've actually had consulted and provided information and advice to help them obtain their dissertation, I always equate it to a journey. The pursuit of the dissertation definitely resembles more of a journey. And according to Brennan 2019, independent research and independent thinking are hallmarks of a student during a doctoral program. So unlike regular classes where you're given these assignments on a regular basis and you're supposed to submit it for evaluation and grade, it's pretty broad when you look at it from that perspective. But when you're actually working on the dissertation itself, it resembles more of something that you are responsible for working on, and you are responsible for developing it, procuring the information, the research in the literature, as well as conducting a study. Another note to notate about the journey is that the doctoral education requires supervision by an experienced researcher and the student's individual plan or engagement. That means that someone like myself, who is a dissertation chair, is responsible for mentoring and overseeing the process, and in some regards, facilitating the process. But it goes back to the prior point where the student is responsible because it is an independent research project, and independent thinking are the hallmarks of the program. Some of the questions that you want to ask yourself as you are crafting your dissertation proposal is, how can I search for my topic? What are my challenges or obstacles to success? How can I manage the highs and lows of the process? And how can prior experiences from mentors and colleagues add value? The reason why I put these questions out here is because, when you first go into the ABDE or the candidate process, many students, it's not uncommon for them to have a variety of ideas, areas that they wish to research, scopes of their topic that they want to introduce, but not so much so as to how to obtain the information for the topic, because you have to develop a problem statement, the purpose statement, and other key pieces of while you're assembling the dissertation. So how do you search for your topic? Not outside of using your dedicated university library, you may have to seek additional resources as well as other artifacts to help formulate the ideas for your topic. Challenges, obstacles to success. One way to definitely look at that is to what are your personal challenges? What is your current work status? Do you have any financial constraints? Understanding what are your challenges and obstacles are very critical during your dissertation journey, because as you'll see near the end of the slide and throughout a lot of these presentations, you'll hear about risk management. And risk management is basically the concept of identifying whatever potential obstacles or opportunities are available and how to mitigate against those obstacles, meaning how to mitigate against disruptions and how to exploit those opportunities. Like as far as like there's maybe a Saturday where you can write 2 to 3 hours, or maybe there might be a Wednesday evening where you might have an extracurricular activity with one of your children or with your local church that may have been postponed for whatever reason. That is an opportunity to exploit. So we'll definitely talk about that later. How can you manage the highs and lows of the process? A lot of evaluation and rewrites. That's actually inevitable, and that's part of the program. And you're going to go through it. I went through it. My chair and other mentors that I had during my journey had to go through the highs and lows. So definitely want to work on your work-life balance and stress management. Stress management is definitely something that you want to consider as far as managing your dissertation journey. Experiences from mentors and colleagues. Be open-minded and receptive. Be willing to take constructive criticism. Everybody who's made it to this point and starting to write their dissertation, they already showed the capacity to absorb and to be able to think critically and analytically. However, the dissertation takes it to another level. It's an experience that you've never been through before, and I'm assuming that most have not been through before. And so leaning on other people and being receptive to the advice, meaning like if you talk to say, hey, Dr. Duncan, what do you think about this or think about that? Be open and receptive to it. Don't be in a situation where you're asking for the advice and then you're cutting off, or you already, pretend that you actually know the information, because all you're doing is blocking your opportunities to success. Brennan noted in the study that there's 100 different rules to embrace when pursuing a doctorate. What rules will you embrace? I think that's a good article. The reference slide is definitely at the end. Definitely a recommended read, just to know, what are the 100 different rules that you could embrace while pursuing your dissertation. Action research dissertation. What it does is produces knowledge grounded in local realities, according to her and Anderson in 2005. It brings change in the community of organization. You see a lot more practitioner models of terminal degrees compared to more of the philosophical models, especially in the School of Business and also in the healthcare cognate, depending on whether you're going to clinical or if you're in administration focused or leadership focused or some other executive capacity. You're actually going to be looking at research and consequential change that could occur within a community or an organization. In action research, the research is a primary focus where the action is regulated as a byproduct of the research. This is timeless, as noted by Dick's very fascinating blog that was written in 1993 that still holds relevant today, that actually draws parallels to the action research conversation well before it became more prominently used in online education as well as other traditional education. Action research is becoming increasingly popular among researchers. And as stated before, if you're in the healthcare field, you're going to more likely be researching problems that's unique, such as EMR software, telehealth, the coronavirus pandemic in 2020, 2019 definitely is going to generate a lot of interesting research and attempts to research problems unique to the community and even unique to the U.S. health system as a whole. Ensuring that you provide an action from that actual particular research definitely provides a lot of different opportunities for additional research from other scholars that may come after you, or even just as a springboard for additional research that you may have within your area of interest. Basic research. So, earlier I talked about the difference between the getting your courses through a master's program and even some level to a doctoral program to the actual dissertation itself. Most of the research that you're being evaluated with at a master's level is basic research. It's more generalized and broad. It's not really a requirement for you to dive deeper into core issues or dependencies in a manner that action or applied research does. And for myself as an instructor, when I evaluate work at a master's level, one of the things that I do is that I just really focus on the most basics of research, ensuring that you have standard APA writing principles, making sure that your research is relatively valid, minimizing quotes, and being able to really synthesize the work. And you'll hear more about synthesis of the literature later on through these future presentations. Basic research also does not apply to a diverse topic in comparison to applied research. Think of it like at a high level, at a macro level compared to a micro level. If you're talking about the U.S. economy, you're talking about something on a broader scope where you may talk about a centralized region such as the Southeast region of the United States, looking at healthcare disparities among different ethnic groups. That is actually applied research. It's a very diverse topic, and it becomes an action research topic because of the fact that it's breaking down something from a broader perspective to a more manageable perspective and solving problems a little bit more directly instead of generalizations. How to approach research? Approach it from a 30,000-foot view, also known as the airplane view. You want to determine if the research can be broken down to address the specificity of the intended scope. It conducts a literature review from different methods to determine what gaps can be addressed and the relevancy of the intended research. So rather than looking at it from the bottom up, look from the top down. And, again, take the example of the U.S. economy. You look at it in a broader scope, and then you're trying to break it down into smaller segments. And that's how you should approach your dissertation. So if you're saying that I want to study COVID, the effects of COVID-19 in rural America, well, what about rural America? If you look at the demographics, it's very, diverse, even in a rural American mindset, because the lifestyles and the general overall health, the life expectancies for those maybe in Iowa or Idaho is going to be different than maybe the lifestyles and life expectancies in rural areas in Georgia. Stigma 2019 provided common challenges of dissertations. Stigma had a nice number of challenges that existed, but I just picked out 4 what I thought were pretty much relatively the same and definitely relevant for the scope of this conversation. One of them is outline of questions are not sufficiently defined. Most people just have general questions. You can think about it again from a basic to action research. Are your questions basic, or are they really defining the scope of the problem that you wish to study? The incomplete review of the literature. It's more than just pulling a series of articles that has the same similar title or just from the same authors. It's actually a trap that I've seen from candidates in the past in working with people outside of just traditional education, where they're just pulling the literature all over the place just to fill up your dissertation. Every page should be provided with care and love, because this is your work, this is your baby, and you're responsible from the beginning to the end. So make sure that everything ties into the problem statement and or everything that you do as far as the lit review is still part of that overall overarching 30,000-foot airplane view of the problem. Deficiencies in methodology and argumentation technique. As you continue through your dissertation courses and dissertation related courses, as you continue to develop your dissertation proposal, your methodology is going to change. That's pretty much inevitable. And you have to understand that you are jumping into something that you may not historically have done or have done it with enough frequency where it becomes comfortable. So think about the 10,000 hours, how you become an expert into something. Same thing with your methodology. You will continue to refine your methodology, and you will also improve the way that you provide your argumentation technique. Methodological issues not systemically addressed kind of goes in with the deficiencies in methodology. Methodological issues not systemically addressed kind of goes back into the questions not sufficiently defined. Where's the causal connection between the methodology recommended or the methodology proposed by the candidate or yourself in solving the problem statement? You may use actually could go as far as the buzzwords, the keywords, and examining the type of concept that you're going into. So if you use the word explore, that sounds a little bit more qualitative, where examine is more data related, data driven, and that's more quantitative. So you may have a lot of qualitative mindset to address your study, but you're using a lot of quantitative terms. And so that is that's an example of why methodological issues are not systemically addressed throughout your proposal and your study. Risk management, like I said, you'll hear me talk about it over and over again in all my instructions. And the reason why I do so is because I try to provide realistic expectations for my candidates, as well as for those who may have questions outside of traditional instruction. So developing a strategy, not only just for your dissertation, you'll actually realize once you do obtain your doctoral degree, that you will develop a strategy for almost everything else that you do. So if you can continue to have a strategy and be able to tune it or refine it as necessary, it will definitely make the journey way much more easier. So review the literature to identify gaps and areas of opportunities to conduct research. So that kind of goes back to the previous slide of understanding the scope of the topic. You know, is your topic or your problem, is it really defined, or is it more of a 30,000 foot view type topic? Create a work-life balance strategy. You know, even to this day, as much as I do professionally and personally, I still maintain a very delicate work-life balance where I dedicate time for you know, working out, relaxation, fellowshipping with friends, attending my hobbies, just because just walking away from a day or two from some of your responsibilities or obligations, or even when you're working on your dissertation, you don't have to work on your dissertation every day, but you should try to work at it at when you're at your peak, performance as far as research and your ability to research and your ability to write. Candidates will receive rejections for their submissions for a variety of reasons, which creates consternation among candidates. And that's part of one of the potential challenges of the dissertation. And, you know, like I said earlier, you are going to have rejections of your dissertation. That is inevitable. But you have to understand that it's a marathon and it's not a sprint. And just like everything else that you encounter in life, you're going to go through some ups and downs, and you're going to go through some peaks and valleys. But, you know, develop a plan to make sure that, hey, you know, I submitted my, you know, my proposal or my study for review. And, you know, in the meantime, I'm going to take these day or two, a day, 2 or 3, or whatever, how long it takes for you to get your survey back, your study back. And then you just, you know, attack it again fresh, instead of, you know, stressing and fretting over it, you know, every day. And then, you know, when you do get it back, you know, you've built all this stress and anxiety about, you know, what the evaluation is going to be. You become frustrated and angry. Or, you know, there's going to be times you may feel like that you want to give up. A fair number of students do feel like that they want to give up. For myself personally, I actually stepped away for a year, and it was actually a great decision. Because of the fact that it kind of gave me a new area of a new way to focus in addressing my dissertation. So when I did come back to school, I just started clearing those hurdles faster because I was able just to really just take a chill for a while. And then the final one, research, write, revise, rinse, repeat. It's just part of the journey. Here are the references that I use for this particular presentation. Hopefully you have the time to be able to pull them down and just be able to review them on your own, add them to your catalog, your lessons learned, or your literature repository, just to be able to get perspective. Again, you know, recall the one slide where I said about mentors and colleagues. You know, you think about your academic references as your mentors and colleagues. These people are communicating in writing some of the challenges and some of the obstacles to obtaining the dissertation, as well as some of the strategies that you could use to improve your writing, and is also improve what you need to do for the rest of the journey. So that concludes the first module of this presentation. My name is Dr. Duncan once again, and I hope you're able to enjoy it. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Thank you.